Here we are, everyone. Judy Heumann.
Yay!
Hello. Oh, no, 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 no.
Yes, 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 yes. We're all here to talk together, ask questions of each other, and we have, as I said, the wonderful Judy here. I know, Diana, you had a couple of questions, huh?
Well, yeah, first of all, Judy is so great to talk to you. You are definitely one of my heroes. When they ask us the questions, who could you have your ideal tea party with? It's you, Harriet Tubman, Viola Davis, and Alfred Woodard. That's like my ideal tea party.
Those are great people to be with.
Thank you. But one of the questions I had for you, and a moment that's so poignant to me, is when you were doing, and it's in the Camp film and the 504 film, when you gave that beautiful speech about, and I remember you putting your hands in your hat, and as an actress, I actually have done that when I do my disability rights show, and to me, it's such a beautiful moment. And I just wondered at that point, what were you thinking? Because it's so powerful and it's so beautiful, and I always wonder what was going through your mind at that moment, because it was so beautiful.
So honestly, there were a number of things that were going through my mind. I believe that what you're talking about is a scene in the Crip Camp film and in the Power of 504,
Right.
which is a documentary.
Right.
So there was a hearing that was going on the 4th floor in the Health, Education, and Welfare building where the 150 disabled people were. And the hearings had a number of people speaking, and I was one of the people who were speaking. And honestly, many of us were very tired because of what had been going on, the work we'd been doing, not being in our own homes and not having the help that we normally did, and on and on. So at the end of my presentation, I was getting emotional because the man who had been sent from Washington, from Health, Education, and Welfare, was sitting in the front next to the 2 congressmen, and he was politely shaking his head to what we were saying. And it really angered me because, as I said, I don't think you know what we're talking about. And sometimes I can get emotional. Maybe if I were a guy, I'd be getting angry. So I was a combination of angry and frustrated. And that's where that came about. But, the audience reaction was applauding. And I think it wasn't, because of me speaking, but rather this symbolic gesture of saying yes and saying to him, you don't know, stop shaking your head, yes, you don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I think that phrase, anybody saying that would have had the same reaction from the audience because it represented what many were thinking.
Well, it's just, I could probably have a million questions, but there's other people here, but I just think that's such a powerful, beautiful statement that you did that. So I just wanted to ask that.
Thank you.
I just want to say this, because Judy, you know this, we've had discussions about this, but it was that scene that you did, speaking about 504, that it landed me in Washington in the first place. Because I saw that scene and I just finished a movie with Tom Hanks, and I I was watching something. I don't even know how I landed on it. But I was like, who is this person? And I was thinking, why? Like, I want to do that. And that's exactly how I got involved with independent living, which was my first advocacy job ever. And then I started working on policy and I ended up in DC. And so I blame you for all of it. And thank you for that.
Well, I'm glad I'm the one at fault to get you more involved.
Yes, thank you.
Anita Hollander. Hello.
Yeah, hi, Anita.
Hi, Judy. I wasn't sure if you'd remember because we only met that one time.
Of course I remember. I've got your papers on my desk.
Yay! I wanted to tell you there were
Let's just
three
say
things.
Anita and I met right before COVID because I was speaking at the synagogue that she goes to and that she's you're the choral director, right?
Yeah, but that night I was being the cantor at the
Yeah,
piano
that
singing.
night she was everything.
Yeah, that was, and I got to sing the song for you that I wanted to sing for you, was "Body of a Fighter," which is the music that's sitting right here on the piano.
Okay.
But I wanted to, there were three things I wanted to tell you, and one of them was I read your book in March, right after we started to get into there, and I'm hoping that at some point your signature will be right there. It's
Me too.
it's so fabulous from beginning to end. It was one of those where you stay up all night because you just can't stop reading it. And
Thank
I
you.
was glad it wasn't as long as some books are, or I would have stayed up for several nights. But it was really great. The second thing was that I just this week had the opportunity to deal with the 504 form. This is a 504 thing, and they said I live in Manhattan Plaza, a housing project in the middle of Times Square, and I had to deal with a reasonable accommodation. And they said, "Oh, if you fill out the 504 form," and the minute I heard 504, all I could see in my brain was you camping out at the Federal Building in San Francisco. I was like, I am holding the 504 form. I love that they still call it that because that was a long time ago. And the third thing, I don't want to put you on the spot, but this was 2000, and I was singing at the Department of Transportation doing my show.
Oh my
And
God.
my daughter and I are standing there, and Michael Winter and Justin Dart are there, and Elizabeth and Bob Dole are there, but then there's these other people, and I don't know their names, and I was wondering if you could see them and if you knew any of them. They might all be Department of Transportation, but does anybody look familiar?
I honestly can't see them well enough.
Yeah, I'll have to send it to you.
Yeah.
Some of you
Sorry.
other guys might have known them, but they were like, I think they were Department of Transportation people, but I thought, well, maybe Judy knows who, because I feel very embarrassed not to
Not to know.
know them. But at any rate, I'm so glad we got to meet, and that I just hope we get more time together in the future.
Getting out of COVID.
Oh,
Yeah.
Definitely. Blair Webb. Hello, Blair Webb. How are you?
Hi. Oh, no.
Hey, I'm so nervous right now.
Don't be nervous, Blair. I love you.
Oh, no. Oh. You,
Judy, you are a fighter.
no.
A true fighter. A true icon.
Oh, thank you.
You have done,
You've done so much for the disability community. From fighting for the 504 to the ADA.
What do you
What do you think advocates of today need to fight for?
Well, let me say one thing, and then I'm going to ask you that question before I answer it. I think it's very important. Thank you very much for what you said about me. And I always believe, as I said earlier, it's so very important to recognize all the pivotal people along the way that have made laws like ADA possible. And yes, I played a role in that, and I'm very proud of what I did, but it was such a large group of people that played so many different roles. And that was really one of the beauties of the ADA as we move forward, that it's not just a couple of people. It's really the emerging voices of the many disabled people from all walks of life who are coming forward and, in the case of the ADA, demonstrating at that point the degree of discrimination that people were experiencing, and to really allow the Congress and the society overall to see that this discrimination was pervasive, that it occurred in all 50 states, and that there was a need for the federal government to insert itself. I think that's really important. You know, this was a major federal law, and if the disability community, state by state, had not really been engaged, we would not have gotten it. There were a core group of people who worked very hard on, you know, the development of the law, the negotiations, but they too were very involved with getting the communities around the United States to participate in the process. So it's, I believe, very important that we always recognize that each one of us plays a role, or each one of us should play a role. Sometimes people step back and don't play the role they should, but ultimately we all need to be playing a role, not just in disability, but across the board. So my question to you is, how do you answer your question? What do you think we should be doing today?
I love it when you do this.
What would you like to see?
I work for a disability justice performance project called Sins Invalid. We're really fighting for disability justice and racial justice. Because as we all know from watching the news, we're not where we need to be in terms of either.
Yes. It goes without saying that the disability movement, when I talk about its diversification, it's racial diversification, religious diversification, ethnicity, etc. And I think the Black Lives Matter movement, you know, it's been around for a good number of years.
Yeah.
This year, I think the unfortunate events that have been happening really have propelled what people have been discussing for a long time about the injustice, the treatment against Black individuals and Black disabled individuals. I mean, I think we need to combine the two, because 50–60% of the individuals who have been killed are people who have various forms of disabilities.
Yeah.
So I believe our movement not only needs to get broader and stronger, but we really need to be working more collaboratively together. So I feel like, you know, the Black movement, the Latino movement, the gay movement, the Jewish movement, the Muslim movement, this movement, and all these other movements need to really recognize that they're all a part of this when we look at disability. because I don't think any of these organizations can really move forward front and center and discuss what they have done to really integrate disability. I think many of these organizations are doing some work in these areas, and they have been doing more work for a number of years. But you know, when I look at the women's movement and other movements, you don't really hear disability as a part of their agenda. And so for me, again, that means the strength of our movement, the diversity of our leadership is very important so that we can go toe to toe with other organizations in getting them to recognize how we are a part of all these communities. And they're not representing any community if they're not representing us also. And likewise, we need to make sure that our movement is reflective of the diversity of our movement.
Yeah.
That's where I think we need to go. And I guess another issue, given the nature of the work that many of you do, you know, media for me plays such a critical role, or should be playing a critical role, in really enabling the general public to learn more about who we are as disabled people, the diversity that we represent, and that we need to be a part of, you know, journalism, advertising, television, movies, documentaries. We need to be behind the camera, in front of the camera, in the writers' rooms, on the stage, playing main roles, you know, being behind a bar serving, you know, liquor or whatever.
No,
But
that's
we're not. I mean, we are so, while there's a little more going on, and I know that many of you in the organization have been really advancing, pushing forward disabled people. I think we all have to acknowledge that while progress is being made, none of us would agree it's where we should be
right.
at all.
And I always feel like 2 steps forward, 1 step back a lot of times.
Absolutely.